Because the only thing I had issues with was the district just claiming that all of it was provided to me.
The girls made these allegations at Casteel High School February 2021. Their daughter was one of 5 junior high-aged girls who provided statements to Casteel High School administrators, alleging this man, a drama teacher, Patrick Power of Queen Creek, touched them against their will. The father's daughter told the school, quote, "I sat in a chair. Mr. Power said to sit on the table instead. He lifted me by my hips onto the table." When mentioning Power's name, the girl cried, according to internal school documents. Another girl, he came really close to me and grabbed my waist. I had to pull myself away from him. Another, Mr. Power keeps putting his hands on my waist and back. He's scary. And another girl says, while alone in the class with Power, he got up from his chair and pulled me in and gave me a hug. It made me feel uncomfortable and weird.
When we're talking about inappropriate touching of minors by a person in a position of authority, a teacher, these acts have been called it, that, this, behavior, actions, and I still don't know what it, that, this, behavior, and actions we're talking about, because only 5 of 13 students were interviewed. There are 8 other students at least, and this I'm only talking about the February incident. There are 8 other students at a minimum that should have been interviewed.
So again, based upon the data that we had there, we felt like we had enough to move forward with a letter of direction under the guidance of Dr. Falloon and HR.
It seemed like an over touchy teacher.
Parent myself, if they had come to me after a day of school crying, getting in the car and saying, my teacher touched me, I can't imagine.
Do you know if anybody at the school followed up with those students to make sure they had services provided to them?
I do not know, Dan. I cannot speak to that.
Made kids uncomfortable, whether or not, whatever that meant, which ultimately is, what made him uncomfortable was that he would pull them in close, or he would grab their hand, or whatever it was, the different things that he would do. They made them uncomfortable, which is why we wanted to go down the road we did with the boundary issue.
They would not necessarily have been thinking about expressing how I am feeling mentally as an injury. And so for that to have been a reason that those students weren't injured, I find to be less than persuasive. And so for a teacher to have offered his class tickets to a gun show, I find that not being an issue for them was alarming.
You never did your own investigation about Mr. Power and his class, right?
No.
You never visited his classroom?
No.
Did you ever actually look into what was being taught during these theater tech classes for 7th and 8th graders?
No.
Do you know Mr. Power?
No.
Have you ever met him before?
No.
You know anything about his disposition?
No.
Did you know anything about his attitude toward complying with policies or rules?
No.
But you did conclude that this letter of direction would be enough to stop the actions that were causing students distress.
Yes.
Do you believe classifying Mr. Power's departure from the school as a retirement is accurate?
Yes, because that is what he stated to Dr. Falloon, and that was what reported from HR to the district. So specifically, the term retirement was what was used.
Understanding at that time that there was anything prohibiting Mr. Power from going to look for another job as a teacher using his certification?
No, I'm sure he could go find somewhere else to work, but if he had retired, and I'm sure there's rules around that too, but no, he could have gone and found another employment, but I never received a reference call or check.
Did it concern you that the district had decided, rather than terminating him, to let him quote unquote retire, and he might be out there the next day looking for a job at another school?
That wasn't really my concern after he retired.
The teacher Mr. Powers being able to retire, and we understand that there was enough of a concern that we were going to put this person out on administrative leave because there were issues around how they were interacting with students.
Not report to the state board or to your own board that there had been a need for an investigation at the time of the retirement, I think was very derelict.
Did you have any discussions in this collaborative process that you're just testifying about should we also follow up with all these other students that no one's interviewed yet?
I was under the impression that a few kids were just uncomfortable by this weird teacher.
I don't believe that was a part of the conversation.
There wasn't anything to necessarily do an investigation on because of what we had and what the description was.
Well, you bring in 5 students on the 9th, and all of them are reporting to you inappropriate physical touching, observing that, or experiencing it from Mr. Power. Did you take any steps to alert their parents that they had been in your office and they had been reporting this and you were looking into it? So you don't have any record
I have no record
to show you talked to any of these parents at all?
That is correct.
And I've got to tell you that as emotional as the testimony was around COVID, but as in comparison to what a parent must feel when their student comes to them crying, saying that a teacher touched me inappropriately, I can't compare the two. I'm sorry. It just, the emotion that was expressed in that testimony and the lack of emotion around the acknowledgement of a parent's horror in hearing that was striking to me.
You had a complaint by 5 students who said there was an ongoing issue in the class that was making them feel scared and uncomfortable.
I think at this point, we were still looking at this as we said earlier, or I said earlier, a boundary issue that we didn't see at that point, we weren't looking at the concern, anything beyond that.
What facts that you had learned through your investigation made it clear to you that this was just a boundary issue and not something more like grooming of students?
I would say that we didn't have anything that, in my opinion, or the others in the room believed was beyond that. It just wasn't seen that way.
And even if you didn't know all of the things that could have potentially gone into a grooming scenario, there were enough things at hand that people were dealing with those student statements over both incidents, the February and the March incident, that anyone that was reasonable and had common sense would have picked up on.
From what we saw, this was all happening in view of the class. It wasn't like hidden.
Assess whether any of what you were hearing or seeing here could reflect the type of things that might be grooming.
Typically, when grooming situations happen, from my understanding, they happen behind closed doors. They happen in an isolated situation, not in front of a whole class, not in front of a whole group of students.
What would have been beyond that? What type of fact would you have had beyond 5 students complaining about a guy who's grabbing them on the hips and touching them on the back and rubbing them their backs, and that went over several months time period, and the evidence you had that students were saying it was scary, it made me uncomfortable, it made me feel weird, and you saw their text messages that went back? To have beyond that to be concerned that this might be some sort of a grooming behavior. You leave him these several different items here where you indicate that you can use physical contact when redirecting students, repositioning students, or putting students into specific formations for curriculum purposes. Did you consider that making a student emotionally upset or frightened was a danger to the students?
I did not see it as a major concern. I do know the emotion part is very common within younger students. I felt like we had a teacher that was outside of their boundaries at times and needed to be reined in and knew exactly when their boundaries what they were and when they could use physical touch, I guess.
2 days after these 5 girls reported the unwanted hugging and touching, the vice principal issued a letter to Mr. Power telling him not to stop touching kids. Instead, the letter said essentially, only touch kids if it's necessary to your job. Vice Principal Ryan Ridenour writes to Power the actions described by the students could be considered grounds for dismissal. Ridenour adds, based on our conversation, the use of physical contact should be used solely when redirecting students and for curriculum purposes.
Were you or were you not monitoring him personally after you gave him the letter of direction?
I was not.
Or yourself walking down, leaving your office, going down to his classroom on any occasions in that entire month and a half between the time you got the letter of direction and the time you get these new complaints, stepping in and seeing how he's behaving or interacting with his students?
And I do not remember going down to his room.
And why not?
I can't tell you other than that the job of a high school principal is demanding, and I have my own evaluations to do, and I have my own, things to do. So I just did not.
What, if anything, did you discuss with your group doing that would ensure a follow-up to the letter of direction and ensure that it was being complied with?
There wasn't.
From what I remember, we didn't feel like there was a crime that was committed.
I was under the impression that a few kids were just uncomfortable by this weird teacher.
Felt like the letter of direction was going to give him the boundary understanding enough that he could make the changes in himself. He was a 60 plus year old man, been teaching for multiple years. Obviously, the situations he put himself in at our campus were potentially different than others, I guess.
Did you have any other faculty members that you remember at any point in time as a principal who had this sort of level of reporting from students who were being made uncomfortable, students who were dropping out of his class because of it, those type of events? Did you ever see that with anyone else before?
No.
So consider these reports to be serious?
I did.
Did you ever at any point in time take any notes of any of the meetings that you had with your team where you were collaborating on what to do about Mr. Power?
I did not take any notes.
Okay. Is that your practice to not take any notes in those type of serious situations?
At the time, no. I would just rely on the fact that the team was there and we were making the decision that was best.
Did you ever consider sending one of those, either yourself, one of those 4 assistant principals, or anyone else from your administrative staff, to go observe Mr. Power and see if he was actually complying with the letter of direction?
I didn't direct anybody specifically to.
You're aware that other students came forward with other complaints about Mr. Power within about 5 or 6 weeks after this letter of direction was given?
Correct.
Do you believe your assumptions were incorrect about Mr. Power?
I believe that he made a mistake that I wish he had not by offering to take kids to a technical gun show.
Later on, went to go get costumes or something with the kids. And when that teacher came back, the kids reported to us that they were, I think, at a Taco Bell afterwards, and they were talking, and he mentioned something like, hey, we should go to a show, maybe it was a gun show. Because of the prior situation, we sent that up to HR, and then he ended up resigning.
And I believe several weeks went by before something else came up, and we followed up, and the school says, oh no, we're done with that, he's resigned.
One of the things that was discussed in conjunction with the technical drama class or theater class was the technical gun show. The fact that they glossed over that there was tickets to a gun show where students would, if they went, that's where people buy and sell guns, folks. And there is absolutely no connection to a theater class and a gun show.
Do you, you, not the team, have any knowledge of whether the school or district provided any supervision of Mr. Power when he returned to the classroom?
No.
Did you offer or request any services be provided to those students and victims of Mr. Power?
No.
How long do you think you met with the students to review the written statements with them and talk to them about any other allegations that might exist.
Like I mentioned, maybe 20 or 30 minutes with the students.
Return to the meeting and share what you learned. Do you recall whether the student names were identified?
Yes, they would have been identified.
Okay. And do you recall whether or not the specifics of the allegations were discussed?
Yes, they were.
So in this situation, would it be normal or abnormal that if you were told during this meeting, perhaps there's allegations of touching, would you have taken a report or not taken a report?
If there was a claim of inappropriate touching, I would have started that investigation.
Did Officer Lyons express an opinion as to the allegations that were shared with him?
Yes, he said that it was not something that he deemed a criminal act, so they would not be going forward with an investigation, that we could continue what we would need to do.
In response that, hey, there's nothing criminal here, would that fall in line with you saying, well, it's just a generic teacher's acting weird? Okay, well, that's not criminal. Or do you think you may have gotten more detail?
No, I mean, I wouldn't have told them. I'm not sure where that even came from.
Okay.
Honestly,
Okay.
they come out and say, "Hey, the teacher touched me,"
right?
And I didn't feel comfortable. That's different. You have a specific. There's physical contact.
Yeah.
And ultimately, at that point, if one's concerned about it, it's legitimate. It's enough to say, well, okay, there might be a crime here.
Why wasn't Power referred to police for further investigation? The district tells 12 News they consulted with the school resource officer. And after careful consideration of all available evidence, the sworn police officer and the district's investigative team were aligned in their findings. The allegations were insufficient to constitute a crime.
So in this situation, would it be normal or abnormal that if you were told during this meeting, perhaps there's allegations of touching, would you have taken a report or not taken a report?
If there was a claim of inappropriate touching, I would have started that investigation.
And everything you saw, including the material after the first 5 reports from other students, that there was nothing in any of that material that indicated to you that there had been any conditions present at the district that could be harmful to learning.
I didn't.
Did you even consider, maybe I should contact Dr. Floon, walk down the hall and ask him about these things that look like they could be?
No, I didn't.
Student health.
No, I didn't.
The school did an investigation.
Yep.
So my response to the parents, from my recollection, I have to tell you,
that's okay,
is my response to the parent was based on the reporting of the Title IX.
Yes.
One of the things of the Title IX is if the person is no longer there, it can end right there and you don't have to continue on.
Right.
So I did state that.
Okay.
But I also stated, even with that, the school did an investigation.
Yep.
And the SRO also didn't find anything that he was going to act upon, which is what I asked the principal about, who asked Officer Lyons, and he says, no, there was nothing, which I also included in my letter to the parents.
But this particular situation, I was not involved in any interviews with parents, any students, never talked to the teacher. And I don't even know, I can't remember honestly if I was even provided the name of the teacher at the time.
Why did the state board deliberate for an hour? Even went into executive session, voicing concerns about students testifying multiple times since it would be separate hearings and the risk of re-traumatizing them. Yet still voted to send 4 CUSD 80 administrators back to the PPC for new individual hearings and spared Woodworth any discipline? Are we safeguarding administrators over students? Is that the standard we're setting?